Hi, I'm Deborah Kaufman with Broadcast Beat. We're here at the Digital Asset Symposium held by AMIA, the Association of Moving Image Archivists. I'm here today with Rabbi Elkanah Shmotkin. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Good job.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, you know, I'm a member of the tribe. And we just heard a really interesting piece on how the Jewish Education Media Organization created an archive of a tremendous number of video, audio, photographs. Tell me a little bit about what Jewish Education Media is.
GEM was founded in 1980 for the purpose of broadcasting the public addresses of the Lubavitch Rebbe, Rebbe Schneerson, live around the globe. So at that time, in 1980, it was a very rare phenomenon that a small private organization would be doing something like that. That was restricted more to governments and major networks. But the Rebbe himself, kind of very unique for a Hasidic Jewish leader, he always encouraged embrace of technology. You know, there are many people who were saying technology is a bad thing. You could do bad things with radio and television, and you know, so we should shun it. But the Rebbe was very much of the opinion that the technology is neutral. You can choose what to use it for. Use it for good things. So I think it was as a result of that probably that a number of his disciples said, hey, why don't we watch the Rebbe's addresses live around the world via satellite? And that's how our organization was born in 1980.
You talked a little bit about this satellite network you formed that was really quite awe-inspiring. I knew nothing about it. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, basically, you have to imagine the scene, and we put up a picture there during the presentation. You have to imagine a scene of thousands of black-hatted, black-coated Hasidic men gathered for this address by the Rebbe, which would usually run 4 or 5 hours, something like that, with breaks in between for Hasidic songs and a little l'chaim, a little drink, a toast in between, and the Rebbe would speak throughout the night on a bunch of different topics. And within the middle of this sea of people, you have, you know, television cameras, which kind of it's a very foreign image, you know, when you see the two juxtaposed against one another. And then you have around the world forming, you know, in Israel at 2 o'clock in the morning, and in Australia the next afternoon, and all around the world you have these groups of people coming together to actually participate in this event. So that's what the Farbrengen itself looked like. And of course, you had satellite trucks and dishes in front of 770, the headquarters where the Rebbe would speak at. But you have to realize these are people who don't have televisions in their own homes. So they would gather together in the community center. And I remember when I was a child, before they were on cable TV, or as cable TV was just coming in, we would, you know, sometimes have to go to a suburb or to a city further away and find a hotel or a motel that had cable television in the first place.
Well, and cable TV was very new at the time.
Exactly.
So I think it's wonderful that, you know, so many people documented everything to do with the Rebbe and all of his works, that you've had a tremendous amount of material. Can you talk a little bit about the scope of the material that you do have?
So it's interesting. It's the first time in Jewish history that the life and times and teachings of a Jewish leader were recorded in audio and video. So we're pushing the envelope here from a technological perspective as well as from a religious perspective, and that's very interesting. That's challenging. And the material encompasses the core material, these broadcasts, which are the Rebbe speaking on a whole host of topics, from current events in the news to a Talmudic dissertation to something about the portion of the week and maybe how they all come together. In addition to that, we have beautiful old films starting from as early as 1929 in 16mm and 8mm of individual events photographed by either photographers on their own or by even private individuals who slowly but surely we've compiled into this massive archive of material, you know, that's kind of all in a uniform setup, and it's accessible by scholars and by our team, and with God's help eventually much more widely even than it is today.
I think it's interesting how you said that Shlomo is the main archivist, is that correct? Mm-hmm. How his job has gone from being a guardian of these materials to being an enabler for people to access them. Can you talk a little bit about kind of this decision to go from, looking inward and guarding it to making it available to everyone?
Well, I mean, there's no good reason to guard it. If the material is there and it's something that people can learn from and can inspire them, we see it as our responsibility to get it out. Now, obviously, an archivist, his primary and foremost job is to make sure that the material is safe, that nothing bad is happening to it, and that it'll be here tomorrow and next year and in 10 years from today. So I think this is not even so unique to us, but I think across the world, archivists used to be, okay, their primary goal is making sure it's here for the long term. Pushing it out the door is not really their big thing. So they're guardians, whereas today, the material is accessible, the archive itself is accessible to every researcher, and sometime soon, God willing, it'll be accessible to people in their own homes. So the job of the archivist is more facilitating, making sure that they can find what they need, that things are working properly, and that they're able to, as easily and as quickly as possible, push the material through to the people who need them.
And how much new information, how much new data, video, audio, photographs are you adding every year?
Ooh, that's a good question. Hundreds of hours of HD interviews. Let me think about that for a minute. Hundreds or thousands? No, hundreds of hours of HD interviews that we're doing every year. As well, right now we've only scanned 130,000 of our collection of our photographs. We're scanning. We have another 270,000 negatives that we're scanning in high res ahead of us, as well as collections of films and video that we're still combining and absorbing into the archive. But I think the big thing that we're continuing to add, and it's going to go on for many, many years, is metadata. The ability to leverage the material and use it in ways that are relevant and meaningful. And that metadata is going to be added in layers and layers and layers for years to come, I would think.
It seems like you're continuing to hone metadata. To talk just a bit about the importance of metadata.
Well, metadata is absolutely the key to everything, because if you take the entire archive and you push 10,000 hours of video out onto the web, so people will be excited for a couple of days and they'll spend a lot of time there. But the bottom line is, as someone who, as we know from working with the archive, it's only as valuable as the tags that you apply to it. Because if you can't find what you're doing, so you're just going to wander through hours and hours and hours of material and you can't find what's relevant. The key is to provide the access and at the same time help with the finding aids, which is the metadata, to enable people to find exactly what they're looking for. So that's, between the app and the different platforms that we have, we're continuing to fine-tune the metadata structure so that it will best suit the needs of people who are searching for these materials, whether it's researchers in-house or people on the outside who are trying to find something of interest to them.
And I know you talked to a lot of different archivists. Can you talk about some of the archivists that you spoke with when you went on your tour?
Now I need to think. It was a long time ago. So I can tell you what institutions we were at.
Well, you went to, you said CNN. Yes.
We were at, our research took us to a bunch. Our research led us to a number of really incredible people in the archive community. We visited the Smithsonian Institution. Susan there was a tremendous help for us. I hope I got that right. I shouldn't do that unless I know for sure. I can look up her name, but if you want to give me a second, I'll look it up. Otherwise, I'll do it again without the name.
Do it,
I can mess up.
We don't need the names.
Okay.
It's okay.
So, our research into the entire process of preservation and the metadata systems really led us to the doors of some really incredible people in the archive community. The Smithsonian Institution was beautiful. They threw their doors open and very patiently showed us everything about their process and their decisions throughout the preservation process. The United States Holocaust Museum, Fox News, CNN, Major League Baseball. Really, we were to a number of the beautiful, really premier archives, and they were very gracious with helping us, and that really contributed a lot to the project because we were able to learn from other people's decisions and their trial and their errors, their successes and their failures, to enable us on what was really relatively a very small budget to be able to take our materials and save them and preserve them.
Well, it sounds like you're well on your way to becoming your own premier archive for a lot of people in the public to use.